What is up, guys? It is Thursday, September 10th, and it's Lucas. Um, so the topic for this week is coming out and coming out tips and all that sort. Um, actually, yesterday, the 9th, was actually, I guess, the 1 month anniversary of when I came out to my mother. And I only figured that out because I was writing a paper on it, of something important that happened to me recently. So, August 9th, 2015, I came out to my mother that I was trans, and I have really bad paranoia and anxiety disorders, so it makes it kind of hard for me to talk to people in person about things, especially like important things. So, whenever I needed to talk to my mother about something important, I would always just write it in a letter and then like stash it away somewhere, and she would find it and read it, and then we would communicate about it afterwards. So I wrote her this long, well, it wasn't, I don't know if it was too long. It was like a 2-page letter, basically explaining to her how I felt and how I wasn't really a feminine person, and the reason for that was because I wasn't really a female, um, and that I felt that I was actually just a male as opposed to being like a tomboy or something. And then I explained to her how I wanted to be called Lucas, and how I wanted her to use male pronouns. And then I went on a list of things explaining to her how we could move forward about this in the future, and what I could do to help her understand things better, and what she could do to help me transition more fluidly. And then I just made sure that it was all very concise, and there weren't any like confusing points at any moment in the letter. And then at the end, because my mother has always been pretty supportive of everything that I've done ever since I was a little kid. She would always say, "You can do anything you want, and I will support you 100%, just as long as it doesn't hurt you or other people." And she's pretty much always stuck by that ever since then. But, like I said before, I have paranoia and I have anxiety, so there's always still that doubt in the back of my mind, no matter how unrealistic it may seem. I mean, someone saying that they're going to be supportive and then flipping out about something else isn't really unrealistic, but it was just there in the back of my mind, because it's common. It's common to be really nervous about something like this, because this is a big change in your life. But at the end, like the last little paragraph or whatever, I let her know that, I understand if she didn't really approve of it and she didn't really want to support me, then I could understand that, because it's a big thing. And I let her know that in a few months I'm going to be 18, so all the stuff that I would need your permission to do now, I could just go and do. I mean, assuming I had the money to do it, I could just go and do it myself. And I let her know that she wasn't tied down to having to do anything, but I would really appreciate it if she was there for me. So I wrote the letter, or I typed it all up, printed it out, put it together, and then I was actually going to go to my girlfriend's house that night. So I went to her house after I had strategically placed the letter in my mother's room, and then I basically just waited, agonizing for a call or a text to let me know that she had read it and what her response was. So I just waited and waited. The next morning, around 10:30 or so, I got a text from my mother, and I kind of just stared at it for like 5 to 10 minutes because I was like terrified to open it because I didn't know what it was gonna say. And then eventually my girlfriend was just like, "Open it, you loser," and I was like, "Okay." And I opened it, and my mother, she was like, "I love you no matter what, and I will always support you in everything, and you know that. And we're gonna talk things out, and we're gonna figure this out and what we can do to help you and everything." And in that moment, I just kind of like, my heart just kind of like exploded with love and nervousness, I guess, because I mean, I'm not really the kind of person that cares about other people's approval, really, but I've always been concerned with whatever my mother thought because she pretty much raised me by herself. I mean, she had some help along the way, but it's mostly just always been me and her for the ride. So her approval and her opinions have always mattered a lot to me. And this was like the really big hurdle that I was jumping over. And to know that I had her support, I had her support through the whole thing was just so satisfying, and it lifted this huge weight off my shoulders that I could finally really start going along with this. And I mean, fast forward like a month later, she's using my preferred name on a regular basis. She does slip up sometimes, especially when we're out in public and in like public spaces, and she uses my pronouns. Um, she allowed me to purchase a binder online, which is working fabulous. She's been helping me redo my wardrobe, getting me the clothes that I need, and I'm a very grateful person because I know that not everyone has that support system. And I think, I don't want it to sound like really arrogant or anything, but I feel like my mother and I are like kind of a good example that it's not always going to be bad. It's not always going to be perfect, but it's not always going to be bad. So that's my coming out story to my mother. As far as other people, I just kind of like, if other family members and like friends. Well, on friends, I just made like this long ass post on Facebook, and they were like, "Chill, what's up, Lucas?" And we just went on from there. Other family members, I don't know if they know. I don't really care that much. I mean, they're gonna know when I start like transitioning more and I suddenly appear. Sorry if you hear that, my cat is being annoying. Um, but they're gonna notice when I start transitioning more and my voice starts getting deeper, and eventually I just walk into the room and my chest is completely gone. But I mean, if they ask, I'll tell them. That's kind of my basis on life. I'm not gonna explain anything to you unless you specifically ask me to. But as far as tips, like I said, I can't really give any tips from the perspective of someone who doesn't have a support system from their parents. But what I can tell you is that make sure it's at the right time, because if you can't, this is a really big bombshell to drop on somebody, so you can't just do it like in the middle of dinner and then expect everything to go on its merry way, because there's going to be a conversation about it, and depending on what kind of family you have, there may even be a big argument, and you have to make sure that you're prepared for that, and that's the right time. 2, do it in a way that you're comfortable. Like, this kind of piggybacks off of 1, but do it in a way that you're comfortable. Like, for me, I did it in a letter. Other people do phone calls. Other people would rather sit face to face and talk. Just whatever way makes you comfortable and whatever way you're accessible to do it. 3, I personally hear this one a lot, and I agree with it, because a lot of people are crazy out there, and a lot of people own guns, and this actually made me think about it, from a trans social group that I go to every Monday, and one of them was talking about how their parents own a gun, and so they were kind of terrified to come out to them. But the third one, it really sucks, but don't come out unless you know that you have someplace safe to be. Like, if you know your parents or whoever you're living with is crazy, make sure that you have friends or other family members or someone that you know that if something bad happens, you have someone else to go to, and you can stay with them, and they can keep you safe from like living on the streets, or your parents coming out and like trying to attack you or something, or whatever happens. But just make sure that you're safe. Otherwise, it probably isn't a wise idea to come out at that point. And I know that sucks, but at the end of the day, it really is all about your safety. 4, don't go into coming out with any kind of expectations. I know that's hard, but I mean, people like to call me a pessimist because I always go in expecting the worst. But when I go in expecting the worst, I will either be pleasantly surprised or I will be right. So in a way, it's not really pessimism, or pessimists are just really actually optimistic. But I go in expecting the worst. Most of the time, I'm pleasantly surprised because I go in expecting the worst. There have been some times where I've been right, but that's not important right now. And just don't expect things to go one way, because, like I said, they could go a completely different way. What's it, 5? I think 5. Yeah. Don't unload everything all at once. Like, there are still some things that my mother and I haven't talked about my transition, like the surgeries and all of that. We haven't really talked about that much, and I didn't want to unload all of it on her at one point. So when things come up, we'll talk about them. But like I said before, this is a very big bombshell you're dropping on them. So try to do it a little bit at a time if you can. And they're more than likely going to have questions in between, so you got to be prepared to answer those. Just the most important thing about coming out is just make sure that you were seriously prepared. Do not make it a spur of the moment thing. Make sure that you have planned it. You know what you're going to say. Maybe even prepare a few questions that you know they might ask, so you can answer them like just on the dime. But all in all, this video is becoming very long, and I have to go get ready for school. So I'm just going to leave you with a final thought. Just be safe, and I hope that if you look at this video and you use some of these tips, I hope that they go well for you and you're able to be the awesome trans man, trans woman, just or even just part of the LGB community. If you use these tips, I hope they work for you, and I will see you guys next Thursday.